Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, there was a ton of UFC related news that came out yesterday. I am going to get to all of it, but I want to start with the worst news that came out of yesterday, which is that Dricus Du Plessis is injured, has injured his foot, and will not be able to compete at UFC 293 in Sydney, Australia. I think there's an upside to this, or at least a couple upsides to this, whereas the initial news was pretty upsetting, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, before we get into it, like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it, dude. So, Dricus Du Plessis apparently has injured his foot. This came to us via Israel Adesanya on Instagram making a video, which I'm not going to play for you guys because I don't want to torture your ears, okay? And it's all around very unfortunate, okay? That fight was unbelievably intriguing, and the reason that it was so intriguing was because of the way Dricus Du Plessis dispatched of Robert Whittaker so handedly. Okay, that is what made that fight interesting, and then of course the build up behind it. And I was really hoping to see Dricus Du Plessis go in there and fight Israel Adesanya. But if we're gonna look at the positives of this, I don't think that anybody would have wanted Dricus Du Plessis to enter that cage injured and rushed, because that was a quick turnaround for whoever was going to be the victor on that night, Robert Whittaker or Dricus Du Plessis. That's an unbelievably fast turnaround to ask. Izzy's done this a couple times in his career where he picks a date and it doesn't matter if he's going to have a contender on that day or not, and then the UFC just simply has to find somebody for him, or, you know, a contender has to go in there under not the most ideal circumstances. And it's super unfortunate, man, because I feel for Dricus. He put on a hell of a performance. His star has never been brighter, and I think that this fight would have been absolutely massive. But again, I don't want him to go in there injured and not able to perform to the best of his abilities, because that would just be shit. Okay, now let's talk about the potential replacement that Israel Adesanya also called out, and is basically the only guy that they could possibly throw in there, and that is Sean Strickland. And this is potentially another positive that comes of all of this, okay? Because while that fight is not nearly as intriguing, because Sean Strickland does not have a second round brutalization of a guy like a Robert Whittaker, right? His last win was over Abus Magomedov, who was just an overhyped up and comer, essentially. Well, he did put on a hell of a performance that night. Obviously, it's not a signature win like a Robert Whittaker. Now, to be fair, Sean Strickland probably should have gotten the nod over Jared Cannonier, which we just saw Jared Cannonier put on an absolute clinic against Marvin Vettori. So it's not like he doesn't have any chance whatsoever. But the best part about this fight is gonna be the build-up, okay? Because Sean Strickland does what I like. It's kind of like 8 Mile, the 8 Mile final rap battle, okay, method of trash talk. He is so self-deprecating that there is literally not a single thing Israel Adesanya can say to him that'll get him shooken up. Whereas Sean Strickland, I would imagine, if he chose you as somebody that he's gonna go after, it would probably be one of the most frustrating things of all time. His voice is I don't know if shrill's the right word, but he certainly has a lot of volume, okay? It sounds like there's a bit of distortion going on almost at all times. And he's just gonna talk over you, and it's gonna be amazing. And unlike almost every other UFC middleweight, who I guess is not as terminally online as Sean Strickland is, they're not aware of all of the internet banter and all of the stuff that goes around about Israel Adesanya. And we learned this in the Joe Rogan Experience, or Sean Strickland's episode on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he brought up all of the most embarrassing internet memes related to Israel Adesanya. Made Joe Rogan feel seemingly very uncomfortable, okay, because he loves Israel Adesanya. And it's just going to be I'm very curious to see how far Sean Strickland's going to take it in the press conferences, if he's going to bring up the fact that Izzy touches his dog in a very inappropriate way, or if he's going to leave that part out, or if the UFC is going to come to him and tell him to tone it down. Now, that does not necessarily seem like a very UFC thing to do, but who knows? You know, and then he also is one of the only guys that knows about the Israel claiming that he's Chinese stuff, which will be unbelievably hilarious, right? He'll say that over and over again. I'm going to beat the Chinese champion, probably call him a communist or some shit. It will be incredible. It will be the best build up to a fight I have seen in a long time. And man, because if you look back at the press conference where Sean Strickland was fighting Alex Pereira, and I can't even remember who Israel Adesanya was fighting off the top of my head right now, which is pretty pathetic. But despite that, dude, that press conference was Sean Strickland giving Israel Adesanya an absolute verbal thrashing, and you could tell that it frustrated him. Okay, Sean Strickland's not going to get frustrated, and there's nothing Izzy's going to say to him that'll rattle him. He is going to rattle Izzy's cage like nobody else could, okay, in a way that nobody else will, and it is going to be unbelievable, and I can't wait. Again, I'm a little disappointed because in terms of an actual like intriguing MMA matchup, obviously Dricus Du Plessis is the guy, but if there was a second best thing, it is Sean Strickland, okay, and it's just because of what I talked about earlier at the press conference will be so good. Now, Sean Strickland does not have zero chance. The shitty thing is that he doesn't really have knockout power. If he did, his boxing would be so much more effective. Could you imagine if Sean Strickland just like could touch you and put you to sleep? You know what I mean? Now, at least there's some things that we can look at that are positive. So he's been training a lot with Alex Pereira, so he's probably picked up a lot of kickboxing techniques that, you know, is Alex Pereira had pardon me, dude, success with against Israel Adesanya. Damn, dude, I just lost like my breath or something. I don't know what's going on. Either way, dude. Sean Strickland. That's what I was talking about, okay? Yeah. So, you know, he's been training with Pereira. His boxing looked much better against Abus Magomedov. He was able to stop parrying with the lead hand. He was able to mix things up a little bit better. He is durable as fucking all get out. You know what I mean? I know Dricus Du Plessis is also very durable, but he ate a ton of body shots early on, and he's just gonna keep coming forward. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's almost Nate Diaz-esque or Nick Diaz-esque. Like, it just doesn't matter. They're just gonna keep walking you forward, no matter what, and eventually it'll get exhausting. Now, Izzy's got way more weapons that he can use, so you know it's a tricky one. It's a real tricky one. It'll be hard to make an argument for a guy like Sean Strickland winning that fight, but I don't care, dude, because the press conference is going to be the win, and maybe, just maybe, Sean Strickland can help change the narrative a little bit surrounding Dricus Du Plessis, because if you go look at his social media right now, his Instagram, things like that, the guy is just getting like, you know, electronically abused by the rabid fans that are Israel Adesanya fans. And you know, maybe Sean Strickland can help sway public opinion. I know that sounds crazy because most of the time when people hear Sean Strickland talk, they're just like, oh, that guy's a nutter. But, you know, maybe he says enough things that people go and start looking for themselves online, and then they realize that Israel Adesanya is not the guy he pretends to be, okay? And then also perhaps all of his seemingly racist fans, you know, the ninja escapade that Israel Adesanya went on will be long in the past, so, you know, the UFC will probably try to drop that piece of promotional material. And since we're going to have to wait, you know, who knows, maybe 6 months before we get to see Dricus Du Plessis in action against Israel Adesanya, the UFC can maybe just quietly get rid of that part, you know. But anyways, dude, these are my thoughts on this. It's super unfortunate. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think happens if him and Sean Strickland fight at the press conference? What do you guys think happens during the fight? And like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it, dude. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.